There is an animal sitting somewhere in your home right now that was never supposed to be there. It didn't evolve to cuddle. It didn't evolve to purr on command. It evolved to stalk, ambush, and kill Alice alone in the dark. And yet somehow, thousands of years ago, it walked through a doorway it was never invited through. And we let it stay. This is not a story about pets. This is a story about one of the most psychologically complex relationships in human evolutionary history, and the disturbing truth buried inside it that nobody talks about. We are going to go through 7 facts about how ancient humans first kept cats. And by the time we reach the last one, the way you look at the animal sleeping next to you tonight will never be the same. 1. The first cat was never tamed. It tamed itself. Every domesticated animal in human history, dogs, horses, cattle, pigs, was captured, controlled, and selectively bred by human hands. Humans made the decision. Humans held the power. Cats are the single exception. Around 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent, the ancient regions spanning modern-day Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, early agricultural humans began storing surplus grain. That grain attracted rodents. Those rodents attracted a small, lethal Near Eastern wildcat called Felis sylvestris libica. Nobody invited them. Nobody set a trap to catch them. Nobody bred them for obedience. They simply appeared at the edge of human settlements and started killing the rodents that were destroying human food supplies. Humans noticed and did nothing to stop them. That passive non-interference was the beginning of 10,000 years of cohabitation. The cat chose proximity to humans because it was biologically advantageous, not because it felt affection. This was a calculated ecological decision made by a predator, not a surrender to human domestication. The unsettling truth is this: you did not domesticate the cat. The cat domesticated itself, using you as infrastructure. 2. The oldest evidence rewritten. Everything scientists thought they knew. For decades, historians assumed cat domestication began in ancient Egypt, roughly 4,000 years ago. The wall paintings, the statues, the goddess Bastet depicted with a feline head. The evidence seemed conclusive. Then in 2004, archaeologists excavating a Neolithic burial site in Chiliocambos, Cyprus, found something that collapsed that entire timeline: a human grave, and directly beside it, a cat, deliberately buried with the same careful positioning as the human. The grave was dated to approximately 9,500 years ago, 5,000 years before Egypt. This was not a wild cat killed for fur. The deliberate burial positioning, the physical proximity to the human remains, and the fact that cats are not native to Cyprus, they had to have been transported there by boat. Confirmed intentional cohabitation. Someone carried that cat across open water. Someone chose to bury it beside a human being. Scientists had to rewrite the entire origin point of the human-cat relationship. What we thought we knew was a fragment. The actual story began in the shadows of a civilization we barely understand. 3. Ancient Egypt didn't start it, but they took it to a level that should disturb you. Egypt did not invent the human-cat relationship, but what Egypt did with it was something no civilization before or since has replicated. And when you understand the full scale of it, it stops feeling like reverence and starts feeling like obsession. By 1500 BCE, cats in Egypt had been elevated to the status of sacred living deities. Killing a cat, even accidentally, was punishable by death. When a household cat died, the entire family entered a formal mourning period. They shaved their eyebrows as a public display of grief. Bastet, the goddess of home, fertility, and protection, was depicted as a cat or a woman with a cat's head. Temples were built in her name. Priests maintained colonies of sacred cats inside those temples as living incarnations of divine power. But here is the detail that modern history rarely emphasizes. When archaeologists excavated the city of Beni Hassan in the late 19th century, they discovered a mass burial site containing an estimated 80,000 cat mummies. 80,000. Many of these cats had been ritually killed, their necks deliberately broken as offerings to Bastet. The civilization that worshipped the cat as a god was simultaneously breeding and killing them in industrial quantities for religious sacrifice. They built the animal into the architecture of their entire belief system, then turned that belief system into a mechanism for mass slaughter. This is not reverence. This is something far more complex and far darker than the history books summarize in a single paragraph. 4. Rome spread cats across the entire world, accidentally. After Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, cats began moving west through Greek trade networks. But it was the Roman Empire that functionally distributed the domestic cat across the known world, not through any deliberate breeding program, but through one simple biological logic. Roman grain ships were plagued by rodents. Cats were loaded onto vessels as functional pest control, living, self-sustaining rodent elimination systems that required no engineering and no maintenance beyond basic feeding. As Rome expanded its trade routes across Europe, North Africa, and into Asia, cats traveled with every shipment. Archaeologists have traced this distribution through genetic analysis. A 2017 study published in Nature, Ecology and Evolution, led by researchers from the University of Copenhagen and Paris's Natural History Museum, mapped the DNA of over 200 ancient cat remains from archaeological sites across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. The genetic signatures confirmed it. 2 major waves of cat migration across human civilization, one originating from the Fertile Crescent during the Neolithic agricultural expansion, and a second, larger wave originating from Egypt and spreading through Roman trade networks. Every domestic cat on every continent today carries genetic lineage that traces back to those 2 migration events. The cat in your home is the biological descendant of an animal that once lived in a Roman cargo hold, traveling to a country its species had never set foot in, because a civilization needed to protect its grain supply. 5. The Middle Ages almost erased them completely. The same animal that ancient Egypt worshipped as a god came within measurable distance of total extinction in medieval Europe. In the 13th century, Pope Gregory IX issued a papal decree, the Vox in Rama, which explicitly associated black cats with devil worship and satanic ritual. This document, distributed across Catholic Europe, triggered a continent-wide persecution of cats that lasted for centuries. Cats were burned alive in public rituals. They were thrown from the tops of buildings during festivals. In some regions, they were systematically hunted and killed as agents of evil. The ecological consequence of this cultural genocide was catastrophic and immediate. With the cat population decimated across Europe, the rodent population exploded. Rats carrying fleas infected with Yersinia pestis, the bacteria responsible for bubonic plague, spread with almost no biological check. Some historians have drawn a direct line between the medieval persecution of cats and the conditions that allowed the Black Death to kill an estimated 30 to 60% of Europe's entire population. The civilization that destroyed its own predator population paid for that decision with tens of millions of human lives. And the animal they were trying to eliminate had only ever been there in the first place because it was useful to them. 6. The domestic cat is genetically almost identical to its wild ancestor. Dogs have been domesticated for so long and so intensively that their genome has diverged significantly from their wolf ancestors. Thousands of years of selective breeding have rewritten their neurological architecture, their hormonal systems, their behavioral instincts. The domestic cat has not been rewritten. A landmark 2014 genetic study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences analyzed the complete genome of the domestic cat and compared it directly to Felis sylvestris libica, the Near Eastern wildcat it descended from. The genetic divergence was minimal. The domestic cat retains almost the entire behavioral and neurological profile of a wild apex predator. The genes associated with fear response, aggression, predatory instinct, and territorial behavior remain essentially unchanged from its wild ancestor. What changed was narrow and specific. Genes associated with memory-based reward learning, the capacity to associate human behavior with positive outcomes, showed slight modification. Genes linked to reduced fear response toward humans also showed marginal shifts. That is the entire extent of 10,000 years of domestication. The animal has not changed. It learned at a neurological level that tolerating human proximity was worth the caloric benefit. That is not affection. That is a calculated biological transaction that has been running for 100 centuries. 7. The cat never needed us, and it still doesn't. Every other domesticated animal on Earth requires human infrastructure to survive. Remove the farmer, and the cow cannot sustain itself. Remove the owner, and the dog's pack-dependent social structure collapses without a leader. Feral cat populations on every continent on Earth tell a different story. Domestic cats released into wild environments do not die, they revert. Within one generation, feral cats return to full solitary predatory behavior with complete ecological competence. They hunt, they establish territories, they reproduce, they survive. Without a single gram of human-provided food, without a single veterinary intervention, without any of the infrastructure modern humans assume is necessary for their survival. Australia's feral cat population, estimated at between 2 and 6 million animals, has driven multiple native bird and mammal species to extinction with a predatory efficiency that wildlife ecologists describe as catastrophic. These are not wild cats. These are the direct descendants of domestic pets. The animal sitting in your home, the one that waits by its bowl that curls against your legs at night, carries inside its genome the complete biological toolkit of a self-sufficient apex predator. It does not need you to survive. It has simply calculated that staying near you is currently the most efficient energy strategy available. And it has been running that calculation, quietly, since the first grain stores of the Neolithic age drew its ancestor out of the dark. The next time it looks at you from across the room, understand what you are actually looking at. Not a pet, not a companion in the way that word implies mutual dependency. A predator that chose to stay, on its own terms, for its own reasons, and it can leave whenever it decides the calculation no longer works in its favor. If that doesn't change how you see the animal sleeping next to you tonight, watch this again. Subscribe to keep pulling apart the things we think we understand.